Welcome to this episode of Let's Chat. I'm your host, Chris Revill, coming from the Cat Cave in Warwick, Rhode Island, recording this intro in my bedroom. This is the first time in over a year that I've done the intro, and it's good to be back, and I'm really excited to share this episode with Sonetta, who we talk about in the episode has become a very good friend and the reason you should meet your internet friends. And we'll go into that in the episode. So Sonetta and I met when I had Pete from Streetlight Manifesto on the podcast, along with John Tumalo, the lead singer of Folly. When I was getting ready to release the episode, I was doing my research, figuring out places where I could find the audience who'd want to listen to that episode, which led me to this Facebook group called Friends of Streetlight Manifesto. Within that group, I just met a lot of really wonderful people. And we spent a lot of time together, and one of the people being Sonetta, and we just became really good friends. And throughout the pandemic and before and after, I've always struggled with insomnia, and so a lot of times, especially in the pandemic, where Sonetta and I would end up just chatting at 3 o'clock in the morning about life and death and Arrested Development and punk rock and ska and art, and it was just always wonderful. Always loved talking to her. So this is a really great episode. Sonetta is really talented. She's just one of those people who can kind of do everything, and I kind of love-hate her for it. Besides being a talented filmmaker and a stop-motion animator, artist, and everything, Sonetta is also an author, and she's written the book Last Words Are for Fools. So excited. It was published through Testimony Books. We'll leave links in the show notes of where you can get it. We'll leave you all the links where you can find Sonetta on the internet. She's basically on all the good stuff like Insta, Twitter, and Facebook at Sonetta Duncan. Really just a great episode. And if my voice sounds somber, it's not because of Sonetta. I have a really big announcement to make. Let's Chat with Chris Revill is ending. We've got about maybe 5 or 6 episodes left to release. And we're going to get all those out, with the plan is to get them all out by the end of August, which will conclude our 10 fucking year run of Let's Chat with Chris Revill. This podcast started with myself and Mike Timoney in 2013 in, I think, my living room or my kitchen in my old apartment in Wood Street in Providence. Started as a hobby, and podcasting has taken over my life, and a lot has changed. I wasn't even married. I was a few months before I got married. It was 4 apartments ago. It was before I was a dad. 5 or 6 jobs ago. A lot's changed in 10 years. I got really busy working at my new job at Simplified Impact as right now I would say the podcast manager and doing media sales. And all I've been doing is working on other people's podcasts, and I hadn't had time for my own. Now, the good thing is that Let's Chat with Chris Revill has definitely been on the back burner, but Let's Chat, the brand, Let's Chat Media, has been in full swing with myself, my producing partner, Nathan Peavy, who's a OG Let's Chat guest and one of my best friends, and we've been working real hard to build this into a podcast growth agency, and we've been having a lot of working really hard, but it's been fun. While yes, this podcast is ending, it's not goodbye for podcasts forever. In fact, it's the opposite. We're going to be launching a new podcast. Nathan and I are calling the Podcasters of Podcasting. It's a reference to the Comedians of Comedy, we're huge comedy fans. And we're really excited about it. Right now we're kind of developing it. It will be myself and Nathan. We'll be having guests, definitely more people locally from Rhode Island, definitely virtual as well, and really kind of exploring creativity, and we'll have a little bit more of a structure than Let's Chat, but I'm hoping one day that things can turn into a way that maybe I can do Let's Chat with Chris Revill down the road again, but for now, it's goodbye. So Nathan and I are really excited to be putting episodes out again, and really, really been crazy busy. We've been hosting Providence podcast meetups. We were doing under the name Let's Chat Social Club, which we're not sure if we're keeping. We've done a few of those. We've just been super busy and just been doing nothing but podcasts, but haven't put up my own podcast, which just kind of sucks. And this is really, it's emotional. It really is. Nathan and I will do a proper long goodbye episode before we start. The plan is to be launching our new one in August, kind of full circle. It starts in we end this 10 years and start a new one. We're going to keep the same social media. We're going to keep the same podcast feed. All that's going to stay, so you don't have to do anything. There'll still be about 5 or 6 episodes left of Let's Chat with Chris Revill. And then we'll be having more consistent podcasts again and more engaged, and it's going to be awesome. But just thank you to everyone. I actually was just talking to Sonetta before I recorded this, and I was trying to explain. She's like, "Oh, how do you feel?" I was like, "It's hard to explain because I was never the kind of person who did things like these. I've never really kept hobbies. I never thought I made a. For those who don't know, if you're maybe you never listened before, I made a career switch at like 38, 37. I don't know. It was like in my late 30s with a house and a child. I left my career in healthcare after 11 years, and now I work in podcasting, and it's fucking awesome. Really great episode. And I just want to make sure I give a huge shout out to all my fellow FoSM crew. One of the kindest things that's ever happened is I got this really nice, there are superlatives, and I got Podcast King with a little streetlight with a domino on it. I'll put a post on the social media, and I have it with all of my stuff that means a lot to me. I got to meet a bunch of these FoSM crew up in Boston when we saw Bandits at the Acoustic Revolution, which is just Streetlight Manifesto with an orchestra. I got to meet Sonetta, got to see our friends, Sean P. Rogan, who's been on the show, who was the OG guitarist of Big D and the Kids Table, was playing with them. So it was like kind of crazy for me. I'm like, I saw Matt Stewart, Pete McCulph, and Sean P. Rogan, and Sonetta, and I saw like 4 people who've all been on the podcast, and I was like, fuck yeah. Let's Chat is totally a ska punk podcast, which we're not, but we are. I love ska punk. And I think it's kind of telling what Streetlight Manifesto is because it brings in so many different people. Check out Sonetta. Well, it's kind of a long intro, so why don't we just get into the episode with Sonetta and keep an eye in the field. We'll be popping out some new episodes and have a new podcast for you soon. All right, let's get to it. A prime example among many other wonderful people about why you should meet your internet friends. And this is going to be something that we'll look back and tell our kids, or like in like a few more years, be like, back in the day they would say don't meet strangers on the internet, but I met my wife on the internet. I'm very much an internet kid.
I met my boyfriend on the internet.
Yeah, I've met your boyfriend on the internet as well. He's a lovely man.
He is a lovely man.
I got to meet him. We got to hang out in Boston, and no matter how cold it was, he didn't complain. So I gave him credit. No, he
didn't.
I was like, dude, you are awesome. You're lucky I like you guys. No, I love it. Let's explain. So 2020 hit, and at that point, it was like, oh man, everyone's home. Let's try to get the best guests we could. It doesn't even matter. But at that point, I remember I was just really hitting a streak of fucking awesome guests back to back to back. And I got to pull off one with, I was taking a course at PRX about how to build an online community, basically focused around your podcast and stuff. And I had interviewed Pete from Streetlight Manifesto, which is, for anyone who may or may not know who they are, but they're not only are they awesome and is what our friendship is based around, but they are also notoriously media shy. Like, they're not a band that does media or press. So it was like a pretty big deal on a personal level. So it was really personal. On a personal level, it was like, holy shit, I get to talk to Pete from Streetlight. This is so cool. That ended up happening. Because of my mutual friend, John Tumalo, who plays in Folly, which it turned out you guys had sat next to each other at the Botar show.
Yeah, that was very serendipitous.
Small world. I remember I had talked with Pete on Instagram a little bit about inviting him onto the show, and he was like, yeah, let's do it. And then I don't know why I just started to get that sense that it was never going to happen. Maybe that was just me projecting. So I hit up John, and I was like, John, I know you know Pete, blah, blah, blah. What you guys like to do together? Anyway, it ends up happening. In our little ska hardcore world, it was kind of a mind-blowing for about all 12 people who care. I'm just kidding.
I was one of the 12, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, it was kind of it's a big deal for that world, especially too. Streetlight and Folly both exist in the ska world, and don't and do, and now Folly's definitely been more accepted into that world. So it was really cool. But anyway, I end up in my group, it was like trying to figure out how to promote it. I just typed in Streetlight Manifesto into Facebook, and I find the group that Michelle had started, Friends of Streetlight Manifesto. Have met so many incredible people, and so simultaneously the pandemic is happening around this time. So I was going to join the group, lead, promote. End up meeting a lot of really cool people in that group, including you, obviously you being one of them. And then there was like all these events, and like no one had anywhere to go. So it's like, all right, I guess we're doing karaoke tonight, or I guess we're doing a movie night, or like it just became very close with a lot of people. You being one of them, where I was struggling with a lot of insomnia, so it'd be like 3 o'clock in the morning, and we'd be Facebook messaging about like existentialism and stuff, and so yeah,
all the things you think about at nighttime.
Yes, exactly, and it was really it's fucking cool, to be honest. Like it really did become it became like the online scene, like what like punk rock music used to be from going to shows back in the day was for me, which is what podcasting kind of replaced. But that group kind of felt like that. Like we all love Streetlight was like our band. That was like the band we all love. But Streetlight fans don't just love one type of music. Like there's people in there who don't even. There's people in that group who like aren't familiar with ska, but they love Streetlight Manifesto, and some of the band members may felt that way when they joined the band, as we now know. We've learned.
Yeah, I think like it was probably the prime time for like an internet community to really come together, because it was right before the pandemic. We had that community on Reddit, and like obviously at shows, like I don't know, for me, like that's why I keep coming back to Streetlight shows, is really because at the end of the day, like you go there and it doesn't matter if you're going by yourself, you're going with a group of friends, you're going with somebody else, like you always end up leaving with all these connections. And I've met so many friends over the years just from like, we're in the same place at the same time, and it's a wonderful feeling. And so during the pandemic, I think a lot of people were lost, people were scared. Like if you think back to the beginning of the pandemic, like nobody knew what was going to end up happening. Nobody knew if this was going to end up being something like dire, which it did turn out to kind of be, right? On a global level.
Oh, definitely.
And so it was nice to have that safe space where you could be yourself and be accepted. And I think that's a lot of acceptance that people hadn't really even felt most of their lives, other than in a small group of people. And especially on the internet, there's so many trolls, or so much negativity. And it was nice to have that place where you could be you and people had your back. And it was people that you hadn't known or met before, but at the end of the day, it felt like you had known them all your lives. And it was just a very weird phenomenon.
And like, and especially too, this is a point where I'm hosting tons of digital. I was doing lots of virtual events simultaneously. So like but it was authentic for me. It wasn't like, oh, I'll go to this and then X, Y, and Z will come to my thing. But it definitely happened. Like Let's Chat, our brand, built so much of a fan base unintentionally from the group. I mean, from anything, right? Like if you put yourself out there, or actually go to an event or do something. Like I forgot what it was, but I remember getting invited to like a movie night or a karaoke night or something, and like, I was like, so for anyone who doesn't know us, I was working at a psychiatric hospital during the pandemic, so I never got that like nice period of like getting laid off or having some of my own time. I was just literally a ball of stress, and I live in a house I own a home with my in-laws, so I had people over 60 in the house, so I was very afraid of killing them. So it was a terrible time, and I have ADD and I don't sit still very well. So having that like, all right, Thursday at 9, I'm going to this karaoke night or this movie night or this like whatever it is. And I'm like, how does Zoom karaoke work? And it's kind of weird, but what else am I going to do on Thursday night? And then, but yeah, because of that, we ended up getting to meet. And then you came to like, this is at that period with Let's Chat, at that period of its life. I had built up the first round of producing team, which you had come on board with to work with. And we were doing like a whole bunch of stuff, and learned a whole lot about how to do things. And now I look back to see everything I've done wrong and how to get better at it. And the team kind of disbanded because I never figured out how to monetize, but that's not why. It's just people's lives get in their way and things happen. So I'm happy because it grew, and I'm so happy. But then flash forward, you end up introducing me to Matt from Streetlight Manifesto, who plays trumpet. and he becomes actually now he's still a friend of ours. Shout out Matt, because I would assume he actually might listen to this. Good guy. But we end up doing a couple episodes together. Then we have some technical difficulties and lose one. But then it turns into like we got to go see them play Botar, which is Bandits of the Acoustic Revolution, which is Streetlight Manifesto with an orchestra in Boston. And Matt, being very kind, put me on the guest list, and I ended up getting to go. And like, I got to meet you and Tyler in real life, and all these wonderful people. And oh god, who else was there?
We did this last time.
I'll look at the picture and I'll shout everyone out because they were awesome. But we got to meet, like I think was it Titus? Was he there?
Yeah, Titus. I think Bendy Fork. We got to meet Sonia and her friends.
Yeah.
Also,
do you remember at the concert when we walked up I walked by that person who ended up having the patch that your boyfriend had made?
Oh yeah, that was also such a serendipitous moment. It's like it was like somebody I don't even know who that person was.
Still don't, and I have that too. That was actually one of the early memory for me for that group was I ended up buying the Lucky Strikers patch because it looked like something similar to it was like a nod to The Simpsons. So I was like, I have to have this. I don't wear patches, and I was like, all right, I like this group. But yeah, that was fun, and we got to hang out with Matt after the show. That was really cold, but awesome. It was fun to see him, but my God, we waited in the very, very, very cold for a very long time for him.
Yeah, it was so cold. It was actually colder in Boston in the beginning of December as it was in Canada in the middle of February.
So I'm excited to do this in podcast form because there's actually a lot about you I know, and a lot about you that is a bit of an air of mystery to myself and to a lot of people. And since I have editing power, it means I can say whatever I want.
Oh God.
Question number one. No, this is how interviews are. Question one.
So formal.
But in all honesty, I'm going to set up a scenario for you. You have been invited to a dinner party with Tyler and some of his like friends from some people. A mixture of his oldest friends and people he doesn't know. Not like you're at a dinner party and someone's like, "So, Sonetta, what do you do?" How do you answer that? Because I actually don't even know how to explain you.
My initial reaction would be to say, "Oh God." I think the way I'm trying to now compartmentalize, I guess, is the best way to put it. What I do is I see myself very much as a creative, but I think like if I'm gonna again normalize, like we were saying about autism and everything, like we need to normalize things for other people because they don't see it necessarily the same way as we see it.
Yeah.
I'd say
calling yourself a creative is kind of a cop out because what the hell does that mean?
Yeah. So I realized.
Oh, cool! I'm also creative. Like what?
Everyone is.
How do you pay to live where you live? Is that
I would always say I guess I'm an indie filmmaker who acts and writes. Is basically now how I'm kind of like a funny story actually about that is I'm going through customs the other day to go to California, and the security or whatever they're called, customs rep, the police officer basically between the borders of the countries says to me, "What do you do?" And I said to her, "Oh, well, I was a flight attendant and I'm an indie filmmaker." And her response to me was, "Can you make me famous?" And I'm like, this is not what I expected at the police, person at the border, but I could try my best, I say. And then she laughs and lets me through. So I realized that you have to, like, if I had said to her, "Oh, I'm a creative," it sounds so sketchy,
Oh, like, and I would punch someone in the face if they told me that, like,
content creator, like that's everyone nowadays. Like,
and that at least makes more sense to me. Like, okay, that's cool. You make not movie. It's all that to me now, which is funny. All it means is you don't make the prestigious film.
I'm not a Hollywood director, but
yeah,
I dabble in the filmmaking world.
I made Soul Plane, so let's have some respect, people. Or like we make fine art like as weekends at Bernie's too. So
yeah,
let's have some respect for us Hollywood type. Yeah, there are 2 weekends at Bernie's in case anyone's actually thinking I'm just pulling that one out of my buttocks. But
I have never seen Weekend at Bernie's.
There's a lot. I don't think I have either. There's actually a lot of movies I don't think I've actually seen, but like through osmosis and cultural references.
Yeah. That's
I've
me
never
with
seen.
It's a Wonderful Life. I've not seen it, but I keep
Yeah,
seeing like at
neither.
Christmas time clips of it on television. Like I feel like I know the movie. Like I've strung it together. It's all
I
good.
get it.
I've seen
Like
it.
I
Yeah,
thought it was The
exactly. Like I don't
Godfather.
think I need to see it at this point.
Yeah, The Godfather. Like, and at least for me, most of my knowledge is that stuff is like old Simpsons episodes. Like I've never
Mm.
seen Streetcar Named Desire, but I know the Simpsons parody very well.
I own it, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, and I probably never will. I'm not good at watching things, to be quite honest.
Mm.
Yeah, but yeah, so you would just be like, I'm an independent filmmaker, but you're also an author.
Yeah, so that's I kind of throw writing in there because I write at all of the films that I've made, and I've written a couple screenplays for other directors as well, or co-wrote. But I was very much always a writer. I started writing since I was like 6,
But
and
is that, would you call that your income, like on your taxes? Are you a writer? I'm just so
I hope
curious about
not,
this
because
stuff.
then I'm not making very much money.
Like, oh, you're
I
poor.
Yeah, the thing is, as most probably independent artists know, is, if you're not doing the corporate stuff and you're not in the corporate world, and I was in corporate videography for a long time, and that was how I was making money and making a living, but that sucked me dry. So I'm like, I don't even have time or energy now for my own creative projects. I don't even want to look at it because it's just like I do it every day at work, and it's
Yep.
really bumming me out. So I ended up then basically just taking odd jobs, and it also helps my writing a lot because then I feel like I've seen a lot of the world in terms of that. So
Oh,
like
so you are a writer.
I am a writer, yeah. Is that the answer you're looking for?
Yeah,
Shying
we
away
got
from
that.
it.
Yeah, one thing I love about you is that you're extremely talented and you do lots of things, but no offense, but you are absolutely terrible at marketing yourself.
I was like, I don't want to do that part. I just want to
That's
create.
where I
I'm
come
very
in.
much just a creative. Sorry to do the cop out, but I
Yeah.
just want to create stuff. I don't want to worry about like even when I found with the book, it
Well, what's the
was
book's name, Sonetta? Since we're bad at marketing.
so the book is called Last Words Are for Fools. It is inspired by a Marx quote, for anyone who knows their history. And I found through the process of writing it, I love writing the book. It has its own challenges when you're writing, but the learning curve for me was really figuring out how to like format it, how to put it up on these different sites for people to purchase, like Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and everything was very specific. And then on top of that, it's like, so you have the writing process, then you have the, like, I don't know, publishing process, and then you have the marketing process, and it's a lot. I don't mind the marketing process, but it's, a beast in itself. And for me, the most nuisance thing, here's the writer who doesn't know words, the most annoying part of the whole thing was really that publishing side of things, putting the book up on these sites, in these different bookstores and stuff. It was like, man, I'm still doing it, and it's still frustrating and draining. And like I said, I just want to create. I don't want to have to worry about any of that side of things.
Spoken like a true artist, but
But you got to do it. That's the
no, it's
important
true,
thing.
right? Because there's making music is
Mhm.
awesome, but or like you said, but we went to go see Botar, which was in Boston. We saw him at Roadrunner, which was just
Mhm.
absolutely one of the best experiences of my life.
Yeah,
But
I love Botar shows. Like I've only seen 2, but like it's a different
yeah, we got to see
experience.
a mosh pit with a fucking orchestra. It was
Yeah,
insane.
like
But now that I'm sure I'm older and now I'm working in this industry, and now my planning brain has definitely changed over, especially this last year since starting a new job. You're like, part of you is like, how many emails do you think they have to send to make this happen?
oh
Like,
god, or
how do you
phone
get
calls, like
yeah,
how much
like
money
you
you have
have to get just the people on stage is one aspect of it.
to.
Then you got to get the venue, and you have to get everybody there, and people have to get paid, and not you have to get
And
the
rehearsals and
just
coordinating everything and like all these different
yeah,
people's schedules and
sound people, like none of that. And I know Sean P. Rogan, who's the OG guitarist for Big D and the Kids Table, was playing with him that night. So
mm,
right there, it's like, well, that's another person. There's just so much, and then you got to sell ticket. Like I guess that's true with any art. So I totally get where you're coming from. But let's take. I'm a little more interested right now with you in the creative aspects of stuff. So you said it was inspired by like Marx. Like, so what is it about Groucho Marx's writing that really made you want to? I'm sorry, I almost got through that one.
Like, oh god.
I tried so hard. I was like so proud of that too. I like heard you say it, and I like literally looked at my phone to look up the Marx Brothers. I'm like, oh damn it, that would have been so classic if I could have kept that going. Damn it, because your face was pretty I wish I could get a screen just like
just like deer in headlights. Like,
shit. I have to correct.
I was
that,
not
this is
expecting
embarrassing.
complicated questions.
Yeah, no.
It was a quote I liked, and that's the important part.
But it wasn't Groucho. I don't know the other Marx Brothers, so I couldn't think of any of them.
Well, actually, I could speak to that though. Like for in the second chapter of the book, backing up. So the premise of the book is essentially I mark it as an anti-romance, but I do think it actually is quite a love story, and it's about a girl who's in let's say an abusive relationship. And it's really about her finding the strength to leave that situation and really have faith and find faith in life and in herself and essentially live. And so we kind of have this journey with the character, and then throughout it there's like different chapters. All the chapters are compartmentalized, so it's like you read one chapter and it's very much poetic prose, so not all of it it's all connected, but it's all one-off pieces is the best way to describe it. And so there's a storyline through it that's very much like talking about basically the androgynous souls philosophy and, you know, finding your soulmate essentially. But in the second chapter, she's talking about last words and what all these last words of famous basically historians or philosophers or celebrities, I guess, even throughout time, and how like the impact a last word has. And it could be the last word before you know, part to the afterlife, or it could be the last word that you say to somebody else. Maybe you know, have a breakup or even leaving a job. What the impact words really have on an individual, and even on like how you're received as a particular person. So that's kind of where the title came from, I guess, is my rambling way of saying.
All this from just watching Duck Soup, huh?
I've not even seen Duck Soup, so.
I mean, either. If we're going to be honest, if we're going to be vulnerable today, it is a reference from the Gilmore Girls that I'm referencing.
I also have not seen Gilmore Girls, despite it being my mom's favorite show.
It's I'm a Johnny Come Lately. I didn't watch it until after I watched The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which is the same people, and I loved it. And then I remember I was walking through the room one day, and Victoria was watching the Netflix version, the newest of the Gilmore Girls, because they rebooted it some years later.
Okay.
Which I would recommend that if you start, and it's really good. Like, man, the Paladinos, especially Amy, the creator, they like. I think it's more prevalent. You kind of see the DNA of what Miss Maisel become. Let's start that one over. Pardon. Good thing it's just you. You actually kind of see. I'm gonna start that over here. You actually kind of see the DNA of what Miss Maisel becomes in the Netflix show with like camera movements and these cool one shots. Like, and Miss Maisel too. It does seem like they're like, okay, we just need to have the family walking into their summer home in the where are they in the Catskills. How can we make this as hard as possible?
Yeah,
let's do a one shot. We'll have the camera pull away and have all the actors just do, and we'll have and like they just go out of their way. Can I tell you my favorite scene, possibly of any television series ever created?
Yeah, of course.
Are you caught up on Miss Maisel like you saw the last season?
Yes, and I will start this by saying yes, I will hear it. I was not fond of the direction that the show ended up going, I will say.
Oh yeah. This is just more separate from just the one scene of that season though, which I'm kind of with you. I was a little, though I did like the stuff with Lenny, but it's a scene with Lenny and Midge are in.
The character of Lenny. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh no, he's the best. That scene when Lenny and Midge are in Florida, and they're at that like restaurant or the bar, and it cuts to like this guy singing something like Dangerous Love but in Spanish,
Mm.
and it's just, and the camera just follows the guy around the entire venue, and then it cuts to different music, but it's just him, like at the end of it it's just this, you don't even see Lenny or Midge until the very end, but you just see this guy like loco loco, like screaming his lung, beautiful Spanish music. It's
Mm.
one of the most romantic sensual scenes of any, it's one of my favorite scenes ever made, just like what they do with the camera and the tone and the color, and fucking A, it's great.
Their art direction too. Like
That's the word. This is why you're creative.
for me, I'm really fond of art direction in cinema or in cinema or in television.
Same.
Makes or breaks it.
I
Especially
actually
when
like
it's
that in content creation too.
yeah, I think in anything, it's especially like any marketing or any sort of like visual content. I think it's key, and it makes it something like stand out or pop or feel more modernized versus so like I don't know, it says everything. It's like you could study color theory essentially, right? And
Which I've
colors
been
all
starting to
represent
do.
different things, so
Yeah.
it kind of goes along with that. And that
So I've
was
been
for
learning. I'm sorry.
oh no, what were you gonna say?
Nothing important, so you go ahead.
I was just gonna say for Mrs. Maisel, for me, that was a big thing that drew me in was I love long takes in anything. And so they do a lot of long takes. I love the art direction, the colors they choose, the costumes. It's all great. And then I love that kind of quick, witty humor.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And I
you
think they
got.
nailed it.
Ask your mom her thoughts about the ending of the series finale of Gilmore Girls, because the second favorite scene of anything ever is the episode of the Netflix season when they the wedding.
Mm.
I'm not really spoiling anything, but it's just very well done. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
the art direction of it is pretty great. I love that. Yeah, it. I never watched. You know what's funny? I never watched it, and I thought I hated it, and it's because I misremembered a Mad TV sketch of it. So I
Oh.
always thought that the Mad TV sketch was just like, you just in
Mm-hmm.
your brain. I never watched it because I don't know. I didn't even know what it was on. But it's actually really, it's odd too because it takes place in Connecticut where I'm from, and I just had no interest in it until years later.
Maybe that's why.
Right, right.
Didn't
But
feel foreign or exotic.
so you're an indie filmmaker, a writer, an
Mm.
author. Now, but a hobbyist stop mo person.
Yeah, so I actually during the pandemic I started dabbling in animation a bit. And I find so I did some stop motion. I love stop motion. I need to get like a proper like setup for it, I think. Just to I'm a perfectionist. So like I start doing something, if it's not perfect, I end up spending like a gazillion hours in the digital side of things trying to fix it and drives me absolutely crazy. So I'd love to
Sounds about
get
right.
like proper like kind of setup for things. I did just start working on an animation a couple weeks ago that's like an 8-bit style animation, very short, probably silent. So that's kind of the current project I'm working on while I start pre-production on essentially what's going to be my next book and my first feature film. So I'm pretty excited
So
for that.
you're already writing your next book while you have to get the first one out.
Yeah, that's why I need it. I need to compartmentalize things. So it's like the book's basically done. There was issues with Amazon, so should have been done by now. And then they had issues with the proof, even though I had approved the proof. So I didn't really understand what their delay was. But essentially, it's just really now Amazon and then continuing marketing and stuff. But
Are you ever try to go the publishing route down the road?
I had considered it. My issue with it is that I intend to create books that become my films. So I don't want to really give up my rights to anybody else because it
Oh,
makes it very
you're
complicated.
so thinking ahead. No, I love that. I love that. I mean, I guess, is there like a single word? I guess is producer the right word to encapsulate it, all of you?
um,
That's
I try to stay away from producing, but yeah, I think producer is probably what kind of encompasses me because
or I guess filmmaker.
that's why I say filmmaker because it's more broad, so it kind of
I always find it so douchey. Like I make
I do
films.
too, and that's why I always say
Like
like
you made
creative.
Weekends at
Creative
the
is
Bernie's
worse.
too. You're not Christopher Nolan. No, I know, but you're not like an auteur yet.
Not yet, but I will say, and this is me being not humble for a moment. um,
Finally, that's why I've been trying here.
is I am happy to say that I am beginning to see the specs of my auteurship, and that was something that was really big for me when I was an undergraduate student, because we had the study of auteurs, and I love like Wes Anderson and Kubrick and Tarantino, so it was like they have a very distinct style. And when I go back now and rewatch my work, while it's not really up to my standard, I do see those themes coming out. I do see like my use of color and my art direction, because art direction for me is a big thing. And symbolism really is the big thing for me, actually, is how, an image or the way something is shot, how that symbolizes like what's happening or the mood or what I'm trying to convey in terms of theme. So I'm beginning to see remnants, but no, I am certainly not there. Maybe one
But
day.
like, because like you're someone I would say like there's a saying like there's musicians. So there's like the people who are professional successful musicians, and then the people that try and it doesn't work out the way they want, but they're still playing guitar in the bar every Saturday night. You strike me as that person, because it seems like this stuff is in your DNA at every level. Like a lot of like the streetlight stuff too. Like you were anyone. Shout out to our FoSM crew if they're listening. But like you became this unofficial like organizer and like be like, all right, we're gonna have there's gonna be a FoSM meetup in Boston. I'm gonna make the Facebook event, and here's the cool flyer, and here's some fun art. And also, side note, the amount of creativity of people in the FoSM crew of like who like that world is just.
I was going to make a comment earlier when you mentioned about how like you ended up getting a bigger following from just even being present in FoSM, and that's something I love the most. And even with my book, like I found like
Yeah,
yeah, I love it. It came in
I'll
one
post that
piece.
online.
A bunch of them broke
Oh,
last
actually,
time.
screenshot. Can you screenshot
Yep,
that? I don't know how, because I
I'll
forgot to
take a
post in the
couple
group.
just in case. Yeah, we got it. Yeah, I think like the thing that I was like, basically anybody who's bought my book is from FoSM. I will I will put that out there for the most part. There's a couple other people, but for the most part, all of the sales so far have been through FoSM, basically. And the thing with FoSM that I realized, and the type of people that ended up kind of gathering there, is most of them are creatives, quote unquote. Most of them have their own kind of creativity or artistic ventures that they do. And everyone is so supportive despite that, in their own lives. Everyone is so supportive of everyone else, and they're really big on supporting other artists, like encouraging their work, supporting their work in terms of either buying it or just like giving shout outs or whatever it is. Like this was just a big thing I noticed, and felt like it's so rare, especially for an internet community, to have so many people that are all so like-minded in terms of that regard.
No, it's incredible. I'm with you, and I don't think I ever would have used the word creative to describe myself up until like a year ago, and even
Mm.
now I still feel weird saying it. But it's only because my two bosses keep instilling it in me every single day in my
Being
creative
brainwashed.
work that I have to do now. No, it's this is like a really full circle moment for me too, because like I remember like we became really good friends pretty quickly, like very like
Mm.
I like say like almost like I arguably it's like almost on a molecular level at some point.
Hmm.
Like I don't know what it is, but like well, I mean, I think we both have like various level of LDs we've been diagnosed with or whatever, and we like
Hmm.
streetlight. But for whatever reason, like you were just one of those people. I think I'm sure I told you, you remind me so much of like one of my closest friends since I've known since I was. Well, we went to we went to eighth grade together. I don't remember her, but it wasn't senior year of high school became friends, and that was 2001. So it's been a long time. My friend Crystal Riley, you just remind me very much of her, which I've always said to people is she's Phoebe from Friends.
Okay, I can see that
Just
for
yeah,
myself.
I get
I
that vibe for
love
you.
that for myself. Just saying.
Yeah, no, you got a real like. I'd even actually argue for you a little more Lisa Kudrow as well, because now learning more about her being fucking awesome, just
I love
incredible.
her. I love her. I love everything she does.
Do you ever watch The Comeback?
I did watch the comeback. Yep.
I should have just throw this whole podcast episode and just separate and just focus on that, because that I watched that show a decade after it aired because I'm obsessed with like
I
short
also
lived.
watched. Oh, sorry. I also watched it delayed. I watched it like
Yeah,
last couple of years.
amazing. For anyone who doesn't know, it's an HBO show. did one season, and then a decade, like maybe 15 years later, they just last recently did a new season.
Hmm.
But it's Lisa Kudrow post Friends making a show about a washed up actress making her comeback, and it's kind of like a spoof on like reality television and stuff like that. And it's like Arrested Development level 30 Rock style humor. It's
Yeah,
just
love it.
fucking incredible. Yeah, but anyway, I put that on you, and I really attracted to those types of people.
Mm.
And I don't remember what any of this was going, so if you can help me out
Uh,
here.
are are you saying, Chris, that I'm a washed up actor?
I'll take it. Hey, you know what though? To be fair, there's a scene in the show that you could tell I'm an adult where her and her husband go to figure out dinner, and they're like, "Oh no, let's get something from the men." Like, and it looks like they're gonna go grab a recipe book, and they just pull out a thing of takeout menus. And that moment, you're like, no matter what anyone puts on you, if you have enough financial means to live in your own home and get takeout every night of the week,
Yeah.
you have fucking, to me, that's
You've
wealth.
made it. You've made it.
Like, that's all I want.
success.
Like, everything else is gravy. Like, I just want to have a nice house. I'll be honest. I want a nice ass house where I can order and I can afford to take out takeout every night. That's all I ever want in life, which to me, that's quite a lot.
Yeah,
Um,
it's especially
oh,
nowadays. Unfortunately, that's the thing.
right, yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah, I was gonna go back to it. Yeah, so like I don't know, I felt like this kind of immediate, like deep connection to you, and I think vice versa. And but I felt that with so many people in the group, but it was just I don't know. There is something special about it. But you did be kind of come, at least in my eyes, like the organizer of everything. If it was asked
thanks.
or not asked, it's like all of a sudden you're getting invited
I
to
think
like
it was a very, very deeply not asked in some cases, but I
that's
think it was just playful teasing, so it's all good.
yeah. But you need the planner because
Yeah.
like I married a type A because I have a hard time getting things done. But like you know what's cool? Like you but then every time we talk, we find out we have like so many. Even just now, we have so many similar interests I would never expect. Like
Mm,
we both are obsessed with like documentaries, like
yeah.
obsessive.
Yeah.
And when I got to moderate and produce that panel with the punk rock documentaries
Hmm.
filmmakers roundtable, you were like you and the FoSM crew came out and were so supportive. And I know I've gotten to introduce you to some of those people too, which was really cool.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
I think was it Taylor, right?
Taylor and
Sean,
you also helped
maybe.
me with the other dude who works on Robot Chicken.
Oh, John Myers.
John.
Oh, John Andrew
And you
Myers.
helped me with John Myers,
Yes,
just so I don't say the
John
other dude.
Myers. I
That
love
feels
him.
bad.
He's got to come. I gotta get him back on. Yeah, he's a good egg.
Yeah, smart,
And
and they're
Taylor
smart,
Morden.
smart folks, and very kind. And it's very rare to find smart, successful, kind people in the world. I find.
I think it's because I met Taylor right before he kind of became
Mm,
successful in his world. Like the last blockbuster had not come out, but he had given me a screening before we did that thing,
nice. Yeah.
before we put that together. And I remember watching that, being like, "Oh, this is gonna be." Well, I mean, I don't know what huge in the world of documentary is, but I remember watching it, thinking it was really good. I'm like, this has real potential to do big things. And
Yeah,
of
and I
course
mean it
we got
did.
yeah.
It
Yeah.
did.
He's doing the Build-A-Bear doc now.
I heard that, and it's funny because that guy just takes like all of these things that I love and am so fascinated by. He's just been doing them all, and that's why I love his work. And I feel probably it's very nostalgic for a lot of people. But it's like the topics, like ska, blockbuster, and Build-A-Bear. Like these are like crucial parts of my identity. So I'm so glad that somebody's
Someone's doing,
yeah
and
somebody's doing it.
I even told this to Taylor because he also was awesome enough to do the show as well. I was not a blockbuster person. Like my uncle owned
Mm,
chain of video stores in Boston growing up, so out of solidarity, we never went to blockbuster growing up. We were only allowed to go to like
they're the
non-chain
enemy.
stores. Yeah, they really were. So like I legitimately fucking hate Blockbuster. I don't care about it. Like there's nothing about that documentary that was like, "Oh, cool, the 90s, Blockbuster."
Uh,
But the fact that he found that beautiful story about Sandy and the
mhm.
finding your family, which is true to FOSM as well, or to a lot of like what we do, a lot of stuff that attracts us is finding that like kind of misfit oddball family.
Yeah, yep.
Or and Scott picking up the 90s was incredible, which obviously, and then I didn't see his refreshments one. I heard that was really good.
Oh, I didn't. I don't even know about that one.
I think that's the first one he made. It was about the. Do you know the band that did the King of the Hill theme song? The dun, 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 dun. They wrote.
I kind of, but I haven't really even seen King of the Hill. So
Oh yeah, it's like I guess it was a crazy story that they were a local band that like did that theme song and became very successful, and then drugs and all these horrible
oh
things. And
shoot. Okay.
I didn't want my friend Brian, who actually did my logo, actually let's tell me all about it, and it turned out Taylor had made it. I was like, oh, that's cool. And
Small world.
and it was turned about how that band like had this opportunity, and then ended up making it how they all the ups and downs made it like as an indie band essentially, like
Nice.
managing themselves, which is kind of but yeah, that's here nor there. Oh yeah. Anyway, and yeah, we always have so many things in common, like docs. And then I know when we did our Let's Chat Live, was it our 8th birthday? We did we teamed up with See Alive, and we did a watch party of Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse. And I
Yeah,
remember like
such a great film.
spend like an hour talking to you about Spider-Verse. I was like, wait, what? You also like Spider-Verse?
So Spider-Verse for me was such an interesting experience because I used to basically go to the movies and see like everything that was out. I said that was like my research. It's my work.
Yeah.
But Spider-Verse, I went in having absolutely no context. And if you know anything about me, I love superheroes, but I've gone to the point just, I don't know, in my life or whatever, that I feel like I've seen too many of them. So I always
Sure.
go in kind of with this bad perception of it's just going to be like another Spider-Man movie. It's just going to be another like whatever. And so I kind of like I knew it was obviously about Spider-Man because it's called Into the Spider-Verse, but went in, didn't really have any context, didn't even know it was animated. And I sat down and I was like absolutely just blown away. Like it ended up being one of my favorite movies of all time, actually. It was funny too because the guys in front of us, they were sitting in those like moving chairs. So I had like the remnants of that, like moving my chair with me, kind of like while I'm watching it. I'm just like, this is like I was laughing, like I was actually in the theater grinning the entire time just because of the joy it brought me. So I was so excited when he ended up doing the movie night for it because I'm like, any opportunity to geek out and watch some Spider-Verse, I'm into.
No, I mean it's my favorite movie ever made. I'm literally getting a tattoo, a
Nice.
Spider-Verse tattoo. I'm wearing my Spider-Verse shirt as we
I
speak.
noticed that actually. I was going to make a comment.
And I put it on because I knew we were talking. I had my Spider-Man pants on. That my favorite scene, one of my favorite, but there's that scene that I think speaks to me the most. Well, no, I love all of it, but the art where he does the no expectations and the when he does the spray paint.
Yeah.
So for a long time, I was gonna get Miles falling down, that scene of him falling, but just I don't know. I ended up falling, and I ended up getting this. I think I showed it to you. I know I showed it to you last time. The art of the movie book. And so I just saw the concept art of it, and I was like, "That's it. I need to have that tattoo of
Nice.
the." I want someone to take that and then replace the words and make it say "Let's chat" with Chris Revel. We'll get
Good
there.
call.
But yeah, I mean, I know you've just done so many things. Like I know you've made documentaries, you've done write books and make movies. But you're also like a airline attendant as well, just like to travel for free.
Yeah, I was a flight attendant for a bit.
Did you like that?
I guess I'll get political for a second. I feel like we need to how am I trying to say this? Give me one sec. I have a lot of respect for flight attendants. A lot of people don't realize that most of the time they're working, they're not actually getting paid. And I think that's very unfortunate. It always blows everyone's minds. The only time a flight attendant is paid is when the aircraft actually starts taking off.
Oh, so if they're delayed?
If they're delayed, doing the security checks, getting people onto the plane, dealing with the baggage, all that they're not getting paid for. When they do the safety demo, not getting paid for. It's the second the plane takes off and lands. So it's by like airtime. And when they have a layover in between, so like time for people to get off the plane and people to get back on the plane, they're not getting paid for that. And it's just like, so that is a big element of it. And I found for me, like, while I love traveling, I love culture, I love working with people, there are a lot more things that I won't go into just because it's kind of not really my place to say at this time, but there are a lot of things that I really love about it, and then a lot of things that are really disappointing to me about it. And that's really at the end of the day, and especially with the pandemic, and now airlines seem to be very lazy in terms of delays and stuff.
Just fly private.
On my private jet? Yeah, okay.
You got a private jet, so what are you doing?
I want to be a person of the people.
I am the people, but Well, I know airline talk is the least important thing of what we're doing here today, so that I'm just kind of curious of
Yes,
how that
it's
was.
still fascinating to note though that a lot of people don't realize like how the flight attendants get paid, and they're not getting paid that much more than minimum wage, so it really doesn't add up
Oof.
for the amount
Didn't,
of hours they're working a lot of the time.
yeah, so that didn't work out. Now, can you said this earlier?
Mm.
Have you actually do you have like a formal diagnosis of the tism?
So I have nonverbal learning disability, so it falls on the autism spectrum.
Yes. Okay.
I was
Yeah.
actually making a documentary about it for a long time, and I
I
still
I
might.
know that because someone in the group you interviewed, I can't remember their name. I
Really?
don't remember anything, but somewhere down the line, someone's like, "Yeah, I met Sonetta. She was making a doc on NLVD some years ago, and that's
What
how I
the
found
heck? I
FoSM."
didn't see this.
I don't remember. It was like
Oh
literally on
shoot.
one of those karaoke nights you weren't at that someone said it, and I forgot. I don't know why.
Oh,
If I hear it, please remind me because I don't
yeah,
remember.
me
But I always thought that
too.
was cool. That's probably one of the reasons we connected because I think so I LD as well, but I went to Landmark College, and I remember did I point blank just ask you like, Sned, do you have NLVD? I might have done that. That
I
seems like
think you
something
asked
I
me if
would
I had
do.
autism, like straight out.
Yeah, or spectrum disorder because
Yeah,
as
spectrum.
we
Yeah.
are aware it is a spectrum. Like my brother-in-law would be, well, they got rid of Asperger's, but he's like Asperger would be Asperger's,
Hmm.
which we like to call ass hamburgers and then laugh every time, which is the reason I watch Community. Like I remember watching the first episode of Community and be like, Pierce, he has autism or Asperger's. Well, if it's so serious, why don't they call it ass hamburgers? And I just
Yeah.
fell on my chair laughing. Um, but like I think that the NLVD aspect of that diagnosis, I've known plenty of people with it, and there's something I love NLVD kids because there's
Thank
just,
you.
and especially like you're such uh you're not good at hiding things like if
Yeah, not at all. I'm a terrible liar. Like,
yeah, same
I
here,
can't
like
lie.
you always like your default, like you've heard of rest in bitch face, you have rest in smiley face.
Oh, jeez.
Like
It's
you're just
true. It's
always
so
look
true,
happy.
though.
Yeah, you always just look happy. But like I'm wondering how much that like you now can look back as have affected both your work, your writings, and your interactions with other people and relationships. Like I now look back at my own LD to realize like it definitely there's a lot of shit that went with it, but it also in a lot of weird ways brought me to people that other people that it's connected me to people that it doesn't like I know we both have
Mhm.
that in common. We're both lightning rods for emotional connection, like friend collector types. And when you throw the NLVD or the any of like my ADD or my dyslexia or CAPD or central auditory in there, there's something about it that kind of gives you golden energy. And it's like because some people are like I only talk to, they don't consciously think this, but like I stay in my lane. I only talk to these people. But people like you and me, I'm like I will talk to literally
Everyone. Yeah.
every type of
Everyone and
human
anyone.
being.
Come on in.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've
Um,
worked in behavioral health. I have friends who are millionaires. I've known people who are I've had friends who are unhoused. I've worked with. I know this. I've interacted and have personal or professional relationships with the entire spectrum of human beings,
exactly. And
uh,
even like
good and bad,
ages, like people across
criminals,
different.
non-criminals. Like, yeah, I mean, I've at my old job, I used to have to work with both the abuser and the abused. So
Mm,
like, it helps you be a better host. So,
mhm.
so I guess all right. My long-winded point is that does the NLVD? How do you think that like shapes all of your experiences to make the creative work you make and relationships and whatnot?
I love this question. And this was kind of what I was
It only took me
exploring.
an hour to get to something good.
No, I think it was important what you said though. Um,
It's decent.
the that was kind of what that documentary was actually about because essentially I feel like my personal belief system is that the education system is not made for really anyone. It's made to basically put you in, regurgitate information, and then like spit you out and kind of give you
Pass a
this hope.
test.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like it's just all regurgitation, and it literally just teaches you to regurgitate information, and it takes your soul from you essentially. Um, so that was kind of the premise that I had when I was working on that documentary, and I realized that it actually becomes a question of so much more than that, especially because the educational world and the like when you go to work, that's the majority of your life. Like when we really think about it, the majority of your time is spent either in school, basically being taught to conform, or in work, being taught to conform. And the thing I really love about the spectrum is that it's this great group of people who I feel like their very nature is to do the total opposite. Like they're just very much themselves and very much in their own soul and almost unapologetically in their own soul. The thing that I think is a shame is like when we were talking about masking and like everybody wants to feel like they fit in. Everybody wants to feel like they're, you know, not an alien, not abnormal. And I feel like now the world is kind of getting to that place where we are accepting that everyone's different. But for a while, when I was first diagnosed, that wasn't the case. And you're kind of treated like you're disabled because you learn and think differently. You're an outsider. You're not like all of us. And I was really disheartened so I went to Colorado for an NVLD group. It was like a weekend kind of conference thing. And so there's tons of these parents there. There's tons of these parents there who had, young children. And when they started talking, talking about their children, they would say things like, why aren't they normal? Why are they like this? Why are they, is my mic placement weird?
No, it was me. I'm listening.
Okay. I was like trying to get closer. I'm like, am I talking?
No, you're fine. I was like, if I move it here, it looks like a penis, was literally what was going through my mind. But I was listening because I have ADD.
Yeah,
So
no worries.
as I know you understand, I was like, I don't want it to look like a dick, but maybe I do if it makes Sonetta laugh. But she might not notice, and that was what was going on.
I thought it was like subliminal, like you got to get closer to the mic. So I kept like,
well, look at you actually being professional and talking serious. I'm like, does this look like a cock? This looks funny.
I'm like,
Sonetta's really saying something special here. Maybe I should make more wiener jokes. And this is the essence of our friendship.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad it wasn't my mic placement. That's the important thing.
No.
Moral of the story is that it broke my heart to hear parents talking about their children as if they weren't normal. I guess is basically at the end of the day how to sum it up. They even used me as an example in there. So Sonetta's like this. Why is my kid not like that? And that was so infuriating to me because I'm like, you don't even know all the masking I'm doing just sitting here for starters. And your kid is like, like 7 years old. Let them be a kid. They're still learning. They're still growing. Don't medicate them. Like maybe I won't go into that, and I don't believe in medicating children. Let the child be the child. And like, I don't know, they're just like trying to basically fit them into a box. And I'm like, the wonderful qualities of a human being is what makes them different. It's these differences that make them who they are rather than just like another, cog in the machine, essentially. So this is my long-winded answer of trying to answer your question, which is that I think that, I was diagnosed with NVLD when I was 17. I was diagnosed as I have NVLD and I'm gifted. And it took me a while to figure out the balance of that because I'm like, how could I be gifted but have a learning disability? That to me seems really like weird. And now I'm just about to go off to post-secondary. What does this mean? And I remember even bringing my like document to a professor in university and saying like, I have a learning disability. I have to give you this paperwork and stuff for like, exemptions or whatever. And it was for screenwriting. And he literally looked at me. He's like, I don't know what you want me to do with this. And I like stood there and I was like, I don't even know what to do with this. And it was just that moment of realization that's like, I don't, like at the end of the day, I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what this diagnosis meant for me or for my life because I didn't feel different, especially because for, 17 years of my life, I lived in a very just assuming this is who I am. And I think that's what I had on me over all these little kids that ended up being diagnosed because while it's good to know your strengths and your weaknesses, if people are putting these negative labels on you and saying that, you're different for this and you're weird for this, then they end up medicating you or treating you like these are actual weaknesses that can't be fixed or resolved or accommodated for. And I feel like I kind of almost got the leg up because, I was older. So it was like my own kind of process of learning, okay, what does this mean for me? How do I work with these strengths and weaknesses? And in the end of the day, like realizing that I'm not quote unquote disabled, or maybe I'm different, but I'm not like, what a lot of the doctors were saying at the time about it or how society was perceiving it. So I think it just makes me is really to answer the question.
Well, I think one of the things it does is you're like, where most people would be like, maybe I don't need to take the responsibility of setting up group event pages for all these groups that I'm not attending all over the world. But that's also what makes us love you. And, I'm sure like myself and Clue, I've definitely come across personality types that don't get a vibe with me very well.
Me people
OCD
either
people
love me or hate me, I find. It's never, people are never indifferent.
I find like people who like order or like OCD types, and I struggle very much.
Mm.
According to my wife, I'm a agent of chaos to them.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
While married, while her father has ACD, and I mean he's the fucking man. But there's some times I'm sure he wants to kill me, rightfully so. But no, I love John. He's the best. Papa, he's the best. Yeah, no, it is funny, but I guess that to me it makes sense though, because you do so many things that most normal people. I don't like to use the word that most aren't hobby. Like, stop motion is not a hobby most people have, but part of like the LD aspect, at least for the ADHD for me, is the hyper focus. And it
Yeah,
seems like you
exactly.
kind of get a bit of that too. It's like,
Oh, not just a bit. Like that is like the only way my focus works.
yeah, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you have ADD. It usually doesn't. Just join TikTok, and if all of your get recommended ADD videos, that's how you know.
Uh,
That's how you know it's time to go to the doctor.
well, it's
Because
funny
everyone I
because
know,
when they actually sent me in for the psychological analysis to figure out what was going on, it was my doctor was sending me to get a diagnosis of ADD or ADHD. And when I did the assessment, the doctor said to me, you don't have ADHD or ADD. To my opinion, we could continue the testing, but I think that the NVLD and the gifted is what you're struggling with. So, like, I
yeah, I
got like
mean,
half of the, I don't
it all
know,
kind of, yeah, and
balances
it's weird
out. Yeah.
because yeah, like I have ADHD, but ADHD affects everyone, especially women, differently. So it's not even like my ADHD is going to be the same to your ADHD. It's just
Yeah.
ADHD just means that you're born with a dopamine deficiency. So you're a dopamine addict, and why it
Oh,
looks like you're losing. It's not. It may appear that you lose attention and track easily. It's just you get essentially you just get bored and
yeah,
you're just
that is me.
chasing.
Like, that
You're
is
just
me.
chasing dopamine, which I think is a lot of why like live music concerts and stuff always really appealed to me, especially the ones I went to, like probably you two, like the hardcore punk ska shows where like they weren't sit down venues. It was like literally a hall where you're
Yeah.
dancing and jumping and diving through chairs and getting in fight. Well, not me, but like almost getting in fights, but like just like being fucking bullshit crazy. Or
Hmm.
like I'm gonna stage dive or whatever, or a moshing or skanking or something
I
like.
miss stage diving. Oh my God.
Dude, the last time I stage dive was I actually got to tell this to Dave. It was a Big D and the Kids Table, Flaming Tsunamis, Melt Banana, and I think and Folly. Folly played too. It was fucking crazy show. It was at this old venue. It's got a new name now. It's called the Empress Ballroom. I think it's called like I don't know what's called, the Heirloom Arts Center in Danbury, Connecticut. But so they were notorious. They had like a 8-6 or maybe like an 8 or 10 foot stage. Like you would stand in front of the stage and still have to look up.
Oh God.
Like, but it wasn't. It was a very small venue, standing room only kind of thing. Maybe
Hmm.
I could be wrong about the details. Maybe like 500 people. It was small. But I remember me and Andy from Flaming Tsunamis. Oh, okay, no, Flaming Tsunamis weren't playing. It was Big D, Folly, and Mel Banana. Andy was hanging out. He plays in Flaming Tsunamis, and I think Fatter Than Albert. Now he's an awesome vegan outreach activist. He was on a long time back. Good guy, if you will. Him and I are both heavier men. Stage dive, and I pushed off too high. I went over the crowd, and you just saw like the sea of people move
Oh God.
and hit the ground, and my head sliced
Yikes.
open and blood
Uh.
everywhere. So never again. I thought you were going to stage dive at Botar.
I don't think you can stage dive anymore because security's there.
Yeah, which I do
Like
love
they've
doing
blocked
it.
it off, so it's like all crowd surf, and I've crowd surfed now. My last crowd surfing though was at Streetlight in Montreal, and my dress came totally off, and I was so ashamed and embarrassed that I don't know if I'll ever crowd surf again. It was just like I felt
Sounds
so
all right.
violated, and
Yep,
they had the
of course.
camera on stage too. I'm like, they probably just got a crotch shot. That sucks.
You're like, oh god.
Yeah.
Of course, of course, right? Such an LD kid. Like everyone else is like, well, why would you stage dive with the skirt? You're like,
Yeah,
well, I'm
that's what Tyler
impulsive,
said to me, and I had my
and I
glasses on.
wanted to.
I had my glasses on too, and they broke, and they're still like now they're like all wonky. Like it just
Yeah, this is like
yeah,
you tell the story to everyone. They're like, "Why the fuck did you do that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds right. I would have done the
yeah.
exact same thing. I probably would have lifted your leg. I'm like, let's go."
I didn't even really think about it. I just wanted
Yeah, it's
to
very much
crowd
us.
surf at the time.
Oh my god. So I did the last episode we did that didn't end up coming out because of technical reasons. We did have some really awesome questions for you from our FoSM group, and I did tell everyone I was going to try to get them in. And since we're getting to do a second one, now we can do it again.
All right,
Are you cool with this?
hit me with them. Hit me with them.
Adam Gardner said, let's see if I can find it. It was one about horses.
Oh, right, yeah.
I can't find it.
I think the question was like,
Oh,
I
okay.
I remember my answer, not the question.
Would you like to fight I'll start over. So we have some questions that I actually never, ever, ever do this, but because of FoSM and truly FoSM, I hope I get to shout you out enough in this group because I just generally and I haven't been as active on there as I want to be. That's only because I've been disactive from all of social media my entire life the last year. That's fun, but things are good. All right, so Adam Gardner wants to know if you would fight one horse-sized chicken or 100 chicken-sized horses.
Okay, so 1 horse-sized chicken or 100 chicken-sized horses.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
I don't want to fight any of them. I'm very much not a
Well,
fighter.
if you think, let's be honest though, like a chicken-sized horse is not that small.
A chicken-sized, and I feel, yeah, it's true, and I feel like, you know, the way I see it is, it's like, are you gonna fight one thing or 100 things? And I'm gonna say one thing because I think karmically, like, it's better for my karma if I only fight one thing than 100.
Well, if they were smaller in size, like if chickens were like a baby, if it was like 100 horse-sized chickens the size of a chick, then fuck yeah. But you can't just step on a fucking horse-sized chicken. You're fucked. Well, I guess it's your question.
But I also feel like if it's something smaller than me, I can't like crush it.
Mm.
You know,
But how you gonna fight a fucking horse-sized chicken? Like,
I would probably just let it win. I don't know.
because
I'm
I
not
know
a fighter.
the only option would be like a chicken you want to grab by the legs, hold it upside down with a knife, and then just take the knife and go.
Oh my god.
Take the head right off.
I would
But I
not
don't
be
know.
able to even do that. If it was like an apocalypse, I would be out. Like, I would be food within the first day. I'm not.
I wish Adam was here to give us some more information. Like, what kind of tools do I
Yeah,
have
like, I
necessary?
have more questions.
Like we have some more questions about the murder. Like, and is this to the death, or is it just like
Or you're
because
just fighting it.
because like if I can just get hit once and get knocked out, I'll call it.
Yeah.
I don't want to die. But Matt actually, I'm sorry, Adam did have a real question for you too.
Mm.
Where do you get your inspiration for your books or films? And Adam, I'll tell you right now, you're probably not going to get a real answer out of Sonetta because I don't think she knows. Oh, and Matt also asked if we can get Matt Stewart to come back with us again, and
Would
I
love to have Matt
would
back
love that.
again. Yeah.
Matt, that's the ball's in your court there, Mr. Matthew. We would
I just say
love
that I'm
that.
not the one being interviewed that time around. IMDb is off the table.
Wait, that's on IMDb?
No, he just kept asking me about IMDb last time.
Oh, Matt.
Matt did, and then so it's now an ongoing joke for people in FoSM where they're like,
Oh,
just
yeah.
ask me about IMDb, and I'm like, just stop.
Side note too for anyone. The thing I'm happy to say Matt's a friend. Like the three of us have had a thread going on for a while. He is one of the most introspective people I've ever met.
He's a very philosophical dude.
That's the word.
If anybody has any.
And I'm just like, hey, Matt, you do the doot on your trumpet. It's like, well, yeah, Chris, actually, trumpets go back to the blah, 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 19 something, and the roots of jazz music and how Black Americans, and just like, and will just blow your mind.
Yeah.
Honestly, he's truly, besides the fact that he plays in one of my favorite bands, it's beyond that. He's just become one of my favorite humans. Like, I know for a fact we could do a podcast with him and not even talk about Streetlight. It doesn't even have to come up.
Oh, 100%. Even our last one it was more about like
I don't think we even talked about music at all.
We were talking about God and like the meaning of life.
Yeah, I remember him talking about being like deities and being Black in America.
Deities,
and really being
yeah, that was what it was.
You're talking about I've done that before. I remember having I had Benny Horowitz on from the Gaslight Anthem, and we didn't even talk about music at all. Like, I don't think his band name even got mentioned. Like, it turned to him making it into a therapy episode.
That's the best type of conversations, I feel like, though, because that's even with me. Like, I feel like when I start talking about my art and stuff, it's like, it's weird. Like, you want to have a real conversation. You don't want to talk about. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but
you would not be good on talk shows without some prepping.
Yeah, I wouldn't be, because I would just end up going. I'm very much like whatever topic kind of comes up. Somebody was saying to me yesterday, a friend of mine, that I know. I know a little about a lot, and that's very much me. And so it's like if somebody even says like a word, I'll be like, oh my god, I have to like say this one thing. So I think that I'm very much like just a rambler type. Talk about whatever, and I probably have something I can kind of throw in there. But when it's like I have to, it's the hyper focus probably actually. When I have to like talk about a topic that isn't like fresh on my brain, then it's a whole other.
Of
So
course. So we got another question from the lovely Julia Dwyer, who was there. I remember. Oh yeah, Julia
Julia and
was there.
Peter were, yeah.
Was drunk Sonetta honest when she said she loved me at the Botar show in Boston, or was it the alcohol? P.S. I love you, Sonetta.
I love you, Julia. Drunk Sonetta
She's got the
never
coolest
lies.
glasses, by the way.
She does. And she
Like
has the
whenever I
coolest
think of Julia, I
personality
think
as
of her.
well.
Yeah, like her, like and what's her boyfriend's name? I forgot his name.
Peter.
He was there too. Uh,
Peter.
awesome dude. Peter. Oh, they were the best. Was she the one that were they there because they had something in Boston? There was somebody who was there
Yeah,
who
she had her
went to
graduation in
school.
Berkeley.
Yes, and it just happened to be the same as the show, so we all
Yep.
got to hang out, and it was awesome. And like, yeah, they were. Yeah, that was God. I have to post that photo again because that was such a weird experience for me. I'm gonna harp back on it because it was like I went to that concert by myself, knowing the only person I knew there was like Matt and Sean, but they were playing, and you.
Mhm.
But like, and then I just went solo and just like all of a sudden found a group of people that I had never met in person, but I think I already knew. And then we were all just like we just got food and hung out. It wasn't weird that none of us had ever met before. Like when we saw each other, or like even Julia or any of those people, it wasn't even like, "Oh my god, it's nice to meet you." It's like, "Hey, what's up?" And we just started talking as if
Yeah, it was
things,
like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in so long kind of feeling. Like, it
even
was
though
just
like we'd
like,
never been in the same state, neither mind the same room.
yeah, exactly. Like, it's like, yeah, it's very, very, I don't know, unworldly experience is the best way to describe it. It almost makes you believe like in like past lives or like soul groups or something, because it's like otherwise, like, I don't know how all these people just like melded. Like, it's
Oh,
just,
we got some good questions from Robin Schindler.
oh,
Robin, I'm bad. I'm dyslexic. Sorry if I get your name wrong. Is a hot dog a taco?
is a hot dog a taco? Yes.
Is cereal soup?
Yes.
I'd never thought of that one, but I was like, yes. I mean, it's technically if you're having Cheerios, you're
Yeah,
eating grain.
you got the liquid in there, and then you got some other stuff.
Oh
What's
yeah,
it
there
by
is like what's that cold soup called with the tomatoes, like capacha?
with the tomatoes?
There's a tomato soup that's you serve it cold. I'm thinking of a Simpsons episode.
Oh,
So I was
because is like soup defined by it being like a hot
yeah,
liquid?
it's like all the soups I like are hot, but if you already have a soup, so all right, I guess the answer is yes. And most importantly, and this might get us some controversy, is Streetlight Manifesto a ska band, if you will?
In my personal opinion, I think they're punk rock. If anything, they're ska punk. And that's just simply because I don't feel like and I'm not a music person, so please don't quote me on this, but ska music is defined by that sort of tempo or the beat count or whatever. I don't know. I don't know music terms, but it's the number, like 4/4 time or whatever, something like that. And I don't think Streetlight falls into that. I think they have brass and they're a big, have a lot of members, so it seems like they're a ska band, but I think that they fall more into punk rock. Don't kill me. Ska punk. I'm gonna say ska punk.
Yeah, there's a
Don't
hard
come for
times
me.
article. There was a hard times article. It was like opinion Streetlight Manifesto. Uh, I forgot what it was. The joke of like it doesn't suck or they're not a ska something like. But I remember
Mm,
reading it to Pete and then getting to send that link to the guy who wrote the article and being so happy.
uh,
And what I find from the limited interactions I've had with some of the members of the band is that they also don't give a shit either.
yeah,
Like I don't
it's
think
good
Thomas
music.
or in the
That's all that
gang.
matters. Like,
Yeah, they're like, yeah, I guess it is. Like I don't know, which I don't. I personally am all for this new wave of ska. Like I'm a huge fan of it, and they all see. Well, it's interesting if you talk to with the ska has some of the worst elitist you'll ever meet in the
yeah,
music world.
yeah.
And this is straight from. I mean, I got to have this conversation with David McWayne from Big D and the Kids Table about it as well on this very show. So we're in good company there. But like when I was younger, like I'm Folly Years, like was my band growing up, and dear friends. But like they played hardcore metal music with ska breakdowns, and they were too hard for the hardcore kids, too ska for the ska kids, and they never fit in anywhere. And
Mm.
now 20 years later it's been interesting to see both the hardcore, but really the ska community. They're on Bad Time Records now. Like this is a band that
Oh,
didn't exist for a
nice.
while. Like they put out that split with the Best of the Worst. So, so to me, I think Streetlight is ska because it seems like the new wave of what they call a new tone instead of
Mhm.
fourth wave or fifth wave, whatever the fuck it would be. They call them the new tone. It seems like a lot of Folly, Streetlight, like that kind of stuff is really being influenced. Like even like I remember like being young, like a sort of Jelly Beans is like the big thing for like the Folly guys because it was like kind of ska core they used to call it. Do you remember
Mhm.
that? Yeah. So I'm Adam. This was Sonetta's question that I took over for no reason, so I'm sorry.
No. So it's a conversation about it. I think I read something somewhere actually that said they were inspired by ska music, by a lot of ska bands.
Streetlight.
Yeah, like there's something about
Well,
I think
Thomas was in Catch 20 fucking 2, baby.
well, yeah, yeah. Sorry, it was actually probably Catch 22 that was inspired because I remember reading
Oh yeah.
something once about Thomas driving with his brother or something. They had like a radio station that only played really ska tunes, and then Catch 22 ended up being formed after it or something. There's some story I can't remember. I'm paraphrasing. But that was the beginning inspiration for it. And if you actually look at some of the old notes about Streetlight and the band projects and all this stuff, Streetlight is written in Thomas's handwriting as ska punk. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
that's
yeah.
I'm led to believe that that's kind of that. There was supposed to be another punk rock, more adjacent band that never formed. And then there's Botar, which is the orchestra, and then the acoustic stuff. So I'm gonna say ska punk because the artist himself said so, but I don't know enough about music to define it.
Yeah, we have that in common. I know we both had this conversation that watching musicians is like watching magicians for us.
Yeah, yeah. I think we had the
Because I don't
combo
know.
with Matt actually.
Yeah, and I still have no idea how they do what they do.
No idea. And it's funny because I love to dabble in all the arts, but music for me is just the thing. I just, no matter how much I practice, no matter what instrument, I just can't wrap my head around it at all. I want to so bad, but it's too many things.
As we do start to wrap it up, I have to point out another reason why this FoSM game is so great. I have never gotten so many wonderful things sent to my personal home from FoSM. Like shout out Ali Fry for her Fry mail. But another thing that we're talking about that normal quote unquote people don't do, and another reason why people love you, is this awesome FoSM trophy that you had made. That I, among many people, you guys did like a superlatives. I got one for Podcast King, and it's literally a streetlight on a Monopoly thing with a little plaque. You made these.
I did make these, yeah.
And you shipped these to people, and you came up with it.
Yeah.
It's so cute, amazing. But I remember I was having this it was like last week or a couple weeks ago. I remember I told you had a really bad couple of days, like dealing with some just depression shit, which I don't like. And things got better. I came home, had the worst fucking day, and I opened the mail and I got this, and I like literally froze. It's like, okay. It was really sweet. And like, believe it or not, of all the wonderful accolades I've received over the years for my podcast, first off, there's never enough, so keep them coming. But that one actually really meant the most. That's up there, like the first time I got into like Vulture and like Huffington Post status, like the top 3 big moments of like, holy shit.
Oh, I'm so glad.
It really meant the world because I really love the crew. Yeah, so I know you got the new book, Last Words Are for Fools, not inspired by Groucho Marx, unfortunately. So when do we get your Marx Brothers inspiration of this?
So it my Karl Marx version, you can get it on Barnes and Noble now. It'll be on Amazon. Every country that has Amazon, it'll be up there within the next couple of days. You could get the ebook on Amazon, on Kindle. It'll be up on Apple and Google. If you want to get more details about it, you can check out the Testimony Books website, which is testimonybooks.ca. Or follow me on social media, check out my website. All the information will be up there, and you can
we'll put everything in the show notes for you as well. So I know we're like wrapping everything up, but this is kind of just more something curious for me. So I've been doing the show for 10 years, and I kind of get bored very easily and all that kind of stuff of it. Like, when do you know when to stop? Like, you wrote a book. Like, I clearly have a bad eye of like, this is done because I started a podcast that may go forever because I've tried to quit a bunch and I can't. But you had to write that book at some point, like to quote Phil Spector, when do you kill your baby? And especially with the NLVD and all of our LD aspects, that makes it really hard because like the exciting piece and the flip side is when you get bored of it and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. What keeps you going?
So this book is actually a great example of that very process, mainly because I started writing it back in like 2015 and it was like poetry at the time. And I, just kept writing these things, one-off things. And eventually I was like, hey, there's some story forming that's actually all connected. And so that process was like 2015 until, I don't know, like let's say 2018. Then I started editing it. So from 2018 until like now, basically, I've been editing this book, and
What?
I'm not even kidding. Like for me, that was very much the question is like, and my dad even kept teasing me with it. Like, you're going to have to call it quits at some point. And I don't know, I guess it was like a bit of intuition. B, also for me, like the way my stories work is that like the next story started taking over and I needed to clear space for that. So I needed to give myself a deadline. And I couldn't start working on this next project until the first project was done. So I set a deadline for myself, which was actually last December. And as December got closer, I realized, I needed 2 more months. So I just set the deadline, and then I sent out to the public. It's almost kind of like manifestation of goals, really. This is the deadline. It has to be done for that. And by doing that is really what basically allowed myself to begin grieving letting go process, because it was very much like, you're holding on to it and it's time to let it go and show it to the world. And especially because it's my first book and I've been writing for so long, it was like, it was scary, man. It was so scary.
I'm just honestly, I'm over the moon and just beyond happy for you. Like, I know the struggles going into the writing this book, and I'm happy that we've gotten to be these, like, I don't want to say cheerleader because that's kind of reductive, but like, I've always felt like you in my corner, and vice. I feel like I get to do the same for you. And there's periods where you don't get to talk to people as much as you want to, but like, I know it's one of the weird moments of like, hey, wife, I'm gonna go meet this woman I met on the internet in Boston. See ya. And she was like, oh, tell Sonetta I have fun, because she knows all about
Is
you.
that how your wife
And
sounds?
no, she's like, I don't have to go. Cool.
The high pitched voice, like, oh, the classic woman.
Unsolicited relationship advice I'm stealing from an old episode of Girl on Guy with Aisha Tyler is just don't force your partner to do the shit that they hate.
Yeah.
Like, so like, I know she's not going to enjoy herself going to a Bokar concert. She's going to hate it. I'm not going to make her go. And then when she goes to like the Louisa A. Maycott house or some shit with her friend Lily, she doesn't bring me because I'm going to hate it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you stay in love, folks. Do
100%.
stuff you like, and like, instead of being like, you have to come to this, like, oh my god, is there anything worse than a concert you don't want to be at?
Nothing, because it feels like it goes on and on and on. Like, that's the thing.
You
You're
hate
like
the
standing there, and
music.
especially because if you're standing there too, you can't even sit. You can't be on your phone because you look like a douche. Like,
Oh, and I find that too. The heavier, like the heavier the music too. Like when I don't like a metal band or a hardcore band, being like, oh my fucking god,
it just feels like it's blasting. It's like you're in like a torture chamber and they're just blasting that like loud ass music at you.
Oh man, well, thank you. I'm very much a sucker of, I love being reflective and looking back and see where people land. Like, we met each other at a really fucking terrifying point in history.
Mm-hmm.
And then like, there were times which like, there's a lot of period where I'm like, we're never going to even, I just never thought we were going to meet each other in general, which was totally fine. But then the fact it was like, well, we're never going to be able, you can't come to the States. There's a pandemic. They're never going to let you back in. We're never going to,
Oh god, that
we'll
was
be internet friends forever. And before we go, that is the part we have to say about Streetlight. I forgot to say is that it's gone past the internet, and if you go to pretty much any Streetlight show, there's like a meetup of people. And now I'm getting to see the pictures of everyone together.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so fun. Like I know like Ali Fry and Jacob you always see at like places, and like you get to see all these meetups and
meetups be like outside of even Streetlight. It's just like, oh, like we met up today in the city, or like we went to this other show or something. Like, it's all connected.
Oh, I'm so glad we got to do this
Me too.
again.